Hello.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Good evening.
Hi, guys.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of SciFi Vision Fandom Access. We are your hosts. What are we talking about tonight? I don't even know.
we are the hosts that are never organized. That's
No, we are. We are
perfectly organized. It's just listen. Tonight's a slow night because nothing's been on. So I forgot what we watched.
We're gonna talk about Echo. We're gonna talk about Percy Jackson and the Olympians. We're gonna talk a little True Detective, maybe, and briefly touch on the new show. Some of us picked up Bodies. We're like halfway through Bodies, most of us, right? On Netflix.
Not me, but go for it.
And we're joined.
I saw like part of one episode. I told you I wasn't far enough to really give you anything.
All right, and we're joined right now by Roger from NDB Media, our host here. Hi, Roger.
Good evening. I just want to stop in and say hi. I was going to speak to you before the program went live, but I just wanted to thank you. I love what you guys are doing. The other hosts are impressed, and we're already receiving feedback. I can tease you with feedback of we really like what they're doing. And there was another comment that stood out. It says, why in the blankety blank were they not on the network before? At which point I could not answer. But if Jamie wanted to answer one of these days, that could be her call. But no accusation.
Got around to switching. That is the easiest answer to that. And that's mostly on me, but
it is, and it's all good. All I can say is a lot of people are liking what you guys are doing, and I know what you guys have been doing for the longest time, and I'm looking forward to being able to have conversations with you guys moving forward. I'm not going to monopolize because it's what I do, so I'm gonna have to leave. AJ, it's great hearing from you. Karen as well, and Jamie. You guys do what you do. We're thrilled to have you on. We're privileged because it's fun. And I guess you can tell by the audience numbers. Numbers are up. All right. We'll see you guys on the other side, huh?
Bye-bye, Roger. Thanks.
All right.
See you later, Roger.
I did want to mention before we start, we don't have dates yet for anybody. But I do believe, I had mentioned this last week, that Sammy has a cookbook coming out. Her and the artist. This is where I say I'm unorganized because I should have this up on my screen so I know the other person's name. But my computer is not even logged into this stuff since I had to reformat recently.
So you mean, anyway, Jamie, that's Sammy Toronto from Grapevine.
Yeah, Sammy Toronto from TV Grapevine. I'm not. She said closer to the book release, she would come on. I told her she's welcome to come. And also, I think we might be able to talk Jill, Robbie, maybe into coming once the ones who live start for Walking Dead. Obviously, she is going to be, for people who don't know, and I already announced this on Twitter, but she's going to be reviewing the premiere, and we're not sure how many episodes, but at least the premiere and the finale of the season. And so we might be able to get her to come on and talk about it. And she's also been doing a lot of her own stuff too, so we want to hear from her. And she's also got she was telling me about her and some of the other journalists have a podcast for the ones who live coming as well, their own podcast. So they'll be doing that, but maybe we can at least get her to come around and tell us some of what's going on in her life and what she's up to, because I know she's been writing a lot and everything. So that's to come. Feels like some event coverage that we'll get to later, but
yeah, Jill's like one of the coolest people I think I ever met at a con. And she's, I think, pretty well known in like the Walking Dead cover, among journalists who cover Walking Dead. Wasn't she voted like a Walking Dead super fan a couple years ago?
The biggest, whatever it was, the biggest fan on. She was the one that was on Talking Dead, for people who don't know. Yeah. Her and her at the time boyfriend were on. She was dressed as Michonne because she cosplays as her. So, and I know she's a big Michonne fan. So we'll have to, talk to her and talk about. Unfortunately, we cannot talk about the series yet. I have seen the beginning of the series. All I can say is I think people will be happy. I can't. We're not allowed to review it or anything, so I can't really say much more than that. But that comes out on either the 24th or the 25th. I think the 24th.
Of February.
Being unorganized, of February. So that show's coming out, and obviously we will be covering that as well, interview wise. But yeah, she'll be doing some of the reviews, and hopefully we can get her on to talk about, like I said, not necessarily Walking Dead, but also just her stuff. And she probably doesn't even know I'm talking about her right now. So I got to be like, hey, this is what we want. No, I did ask her, and I told her, we'd love to have her on and talk to her when she gets a chance, maybe closer to the premiere.
Cool.
But so that's in the works. I'm trying to think if there's anything else specifically. It's been actually, I know there's been a lot of stuff going on, but at least specifically for us, there hasn't been as much as there was like recently. It's just this week's been kind of slow. I think there's going to be more Quantum Leap interviews on the horizon, so you have that to look forward to. And yeah, so, and the other stuff I mentioned, last week, I have another La Brea interview coming out, but I know you guys aren't necessarily watching that right now. I know, I think, I don't remember if was it Ark too, or just Michael that was watching it? I know somebody in here that listened to us.
Oh, I think I think
it was Ark.
Okay, I wasn't sure. Just not you guys.
No, and Michael Day had like the entire cast as guests on his show here on NDB Media, so he's obviously a big fan of the show also. Yeah. All right. Cool. Finally, TV's getting back up in gear a little bit, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So maybe we should jump into what we got going tonight, right?
Sounds like a plan.
So I made some slides again since we are not happy. We don't want to be on video ourselves just yet. So look at that. I can do it and have us there on the side. How do we like that?
Good job.
So the first thing we have is Echo. And before we start, so we're going to talk about episodes 4 and 5, which are the last 2 episodes of the season, right? And before we do that, I mentioned last week that they had this cool piece of art that I didn't use because it was the wrong size. But this is the key art they produced where they did the word echo. That's in sign language, right? That's ECHO in sign language. So since I talked about it and didn't show it last week, I thought I'd just show it. It is cool, isn't it?
That is, yeah, that is cool.
And
I feel bad. I used to know so much sign language because I had a friend in high school who was deaf. She came to our dances and our games. Mm-hmm. She went to a special school for deaf children, but she came to our dances, and I'd see her there on the weekends, and we'd talk in sign language. But because I know she liked to come and feel the vibrations of the music, and I was pretty fluent in it, but it has been so many years. Unfortunately, I have forgotten so much of it, which is sad. I think that sign language is something that should be taught in schools. I think everybody should have to. I really do. That everybody should have to know it.
I'm sorry. Form of it. I wish you were still fluent also, because I love watching shows. I love watching any other language with a person who knows that language. Like, I would love to watch it with you and for you to be like, oh yeah, I know sign language, and they said something different. Or I used to watch Lost with a friend of mine who is from a Korean American family. And she would always be like, oh my God, her accent is great. His is terrible. Oh my God, that's not even what they said, right? Like, it's really
fun. I know bits and pieces. Just like I do the same thing with Spanish. I still remember pieces of Spanish, and somebody will say something and they don't put the caption because like it wasn't important. I'm like, I know what they said. So, but yeah, I used to know a lot more than I remember now, unfortunately. Oh. I wish I still did.
Well,
but yeah.
Well.
But yeah, that's a very cool poster. And I went off track. Sorry about that.
Right. But, so episode 4 picks up after Uncle Kingpin has showed up at Echo's house at home in Oklahoma. And so season 4 opens up with this like flashback to when Maya was a little girl being raised by the Kingpin. And it's a truly like terrible, shocking scene, right? Like what happens in the scene. And like there's just so much going on there. Did it like I thought Okay, so I was uncomfortable with it partly because of the violence, right? It's incredibly violent, and like they dress Kingpin in a white suit so that we can like see all this blood on him later, right? Mm-hmm. But he beats the guy up so badly. It's like, I mean, we know this show is supposedly the most violent of the Marvel shows, but it's also like twisted because he's like doing it because he like loves her, right? And like
I was definitely conflicted watching this because I said before, like there are at times when I kind of felt for him a little bit because I do feel like he really did care for her, but obviously in a much twisted way. But yeah, it's a little weird at times because you kind of see both. You kind of see that caring, and you know he's still totally evil. So
I wanted to ask AJ, like sometimes shows that are based, like, is this from the comics? Like sometimes there are iconic moments from comics that make it to screen, and sometimes there are totally made up things that are on the screen, right?
I mean, he did raise her, so I mean, I don't know if the ice cream guy or hot dog guy, whatever it was, that scene. I don't know if that's out of the comics or not. Like, I know of Echo. I don't know a lot about her.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're not like a devoted Echo reader. Well, I thought it was kind of messed up. And then she comes over, she kicks the guy, right? And so she's already like he's already like inculcating violence in her when she's like, I'm pointing at my screen, you can't see me. She's like, look how little she is, right? I'm taking her by the hand. That was really terrible. But really, the main part of the episode is like there's this long scene where Maya and what's Kingpin's real name? Whatever.
Wilton Fisk.
Uncle who?
Wilton Fisk.
Wilton Fisk, right? Where they're like having dinner. So there's not a lot of images available on the Disney site, so I don't have a ton from this episode. But a lot of this episode is like how she reacts to having that dinner with him, what she decides to do. Is she going to leave town to protect the people she loves? And I think and she goes to see her grandmother, right? And I wish there was a shot. There was no shot in the Disney press kit of her speaking with her grandmother, Chula. Let's see what was next. No, I put this from last time because it was just cool. For the previous episodes, there were barely any images of like these two. I mean, particularly the last episode 105, is so visual, right? And there's no images at all in the Disney press kit. And I didn't want to just jack one off the internet.
Yeah. They want people to watch it. Maybe they're like, come watch it instead. No. Oh no.
So I mean, did you guys like it? A lot of this episode was really like about the we got this long explanation kind of like when Maya's mother died, how her grandmother felt about it, and you know, Maya is still very angry. I had some feelings about that.
Yeah.
I mean, she's
still. I can see why she didn't see her because it hurt. Like, I can understand that it hurt, but I think she hurt Maya an awful lot with what she did, and it's kind of harsh, you know.
Oh yeah, you mean like how Maya's like, you disowned me, and the grandmother was like, I didn't disown you, I disowned your father, which seems to be like.
Well, what did you think it did to her? Like, you know, I get it, but like, it was mean. But I understand why she did it. But I feel like she owes her, you know, more of an explanation and needs to make it right. Like, she shouldn't have, because she was a kid. It wasn't her responsibility to have to reach back out to her grandmother. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was unable. And now what we don't see, but I would imagine that certainly Fisk was like putting in her ear, like, I mean, we know that like her whole life he was like, you can only trust me, I'm the only person you can trust. He probably really reinforced that.
Yeah, he alienated her from everybody else.
Even though Maya's father was alive, I mean, we see her in this like kind of flashback picture, we see her like, she's holding his hand and he's like helping to he's raising her, but her father was alive up until the Hawkeye show that we just saw, right? So I don't know if she was raised separate. Really, her father was too busy out being an assassin to like really raise her, maybe, or something, or whatever he was, a gangster in the mafia. I was going to say the trench coat.
It wasn't super clear. She obviously had her father, like he was alive, but I don't know how much of a father he was. That part wasn't clear.
And I guess Fisk, like, obviously wanted to, like, create in Maya this idea that her grandmother had disowned her, that, not create it, but reinforce it. That, I mean, if you want to raise a child to become your henchman, right?
Let me ask you a question. I'm trying to remember. Did he ever give a reason why he had her father killed? I mean, I know if he told her a reason, it was a lie anyway, but I mean, did they ever, I can't remember, did they ever say exactly why he did that?
Well, Hawkeye killed him.
No, but
yeah, but it was manipulated. Like,
yeah, I'm talking about him wanting him dead.
I'm trying to remember exactly.
No, the reason why I was asking is I was thinking about it and thinking about how we're just now saying like I just said, he alienated her to make her feel alone, and I just wondered if maybe there was any bit in there, like maybe where because it was clear that his father introduced her to her when he was still alive, when she was little. And I just wonder if there was any reason, like maybe he cared about her even then and sort of wanted him out of the picture so he could be the only one that took care of her. Does that make sense? It's in a sick, twisted way. I don't know if that's the case. I just was thinking about it now and wondering about that. Like, but I don't think that was necessarily it.
Yeah, so in the show, Kingpin told Hawkeye where to find William, where to find Maya's father to kill him. Mm-hmm. And she learns about it, but I don't really know if I know why, unless it was only to hone her more as a formidable assassin for him or whatever.
Yeah, I was just curious, kind of the reasoning. I'm interested in knowing why, but I don't think they did say. It might not matter. My own curiosity,
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't really matter either.
No.
So this episode also is
yeah, they never actually say why Kingpin wanted her father dead. I feel like it was said somewhere at some point, but I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
I don't know if her dad was like stealing from Kingpin or something, or I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it doesn't really matter. I just was thinking about it and it made me wonder.
So in this episode, she's also really pissed off at Henry, who I think is her uncle. I'm not really sure how
Henry is her dad's brother.
Okay, and he also never. He's like, oh, I was worried about you, and she's like, oh, and you just left me there with the Kingpin. Like, she's really mad at him also, right? But Henry, I do feel like he's trying to kind of make up for what he's done, but like do right by her a little. He's like, you got to touch your grandmother. I'm sorry. I'm forcing you to come to your grandmother and have this other like really difficult conversation. And it's the beginning of another flashback, right? Is it somewhere in these two episodes we have the flashbacks of Maya's birth, when her mother was in labor and was like, I gotta get out of this hospital and go be with the midwives or whatever. And
she goes in the forest and it glows.
Yeah. And all that. But the conversation all kind of goes bad, right? Maya's a very angry person, but I can kind of get it, right?
Yeah.
So then she goes back. And this is also when she goes back to the Kingpin. She's going to kill him. And he's like, no, don't kill me. Let me tell you how I killed my own father with a hammer. And we have his
yeah, that part was a little gruesome and a little weird.
Well, that's in the Daredevil show. That's in the Netflix show.
That's
Okay.
also
Those
in
are
the Netflix
scenes
show?
from those are scenes from the Netflix show.
I mean, it made me maybe.
You mean him murdering his father is not the flash,
Yes.
not him
Yes.
telling her about it. Okay.
It made me maybe understand a little bit the previous flashback we'd seen of young Fisk being raised by his mother, who was entertaining men probably for money, right? Like that probably was her job, having this, but she was a very non I mean, she was kind of mean to him, right? His mother was not really like we learn in this episode that he killed his own father with a hammer, but it's not like his mother was really mean to him in those flashbacks. But now I can see like maybe her mother's kind of afraid of him.
Well, yeah, I mean, so
Right.
all right, so I'll yeah. So his mom, his father was a very cruel individual who beat on both him and his mother. And then she always kind of like Fisk and his mom had they had a close relationship, and then it changed after Fisk murdered his father, and she helped him hide the body.
Oh.
Yeah. They hid the body, and then to get government help and stuff, because they made it look like he just ran off. So
yeah. Well, until they didn't go to jail.
Yeah. But I mean, the fact that he murdered his father like that, they were not as close as they were, but Fisk still cared for his mother, changed her name and everything, put her in an old age home and stuff like that, and went to visit her. Not that she remembered who he was, but yeah, there's a story to pass there. But anyway.
Okay, because in the flashback that we saw, she's like, won't let him go to the house, won't let him talk to anybody. She's very, and she's kind of mean to him. But he's a very scary person. So I guess that's where this episode ends. The last episode takes place largely at the powwow, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the way this ends on a cliffhanger, because he's like, good, you didn't kill me. Come with me and go to New York. And then it picks up in episode 5 where she's like, I gotta leave. I'm bringing danger to everybody. Right. And then there's all the powwow. What'd you guys think of this?
So I had problems with this episode. I liked all the Native American stuff. I thought it was really cool the way they did it and everything. I felt like they tried. I don't know. I've been seeing having mixed conversations with people about her.
It was good, but you're gonna say maybe it felt like they tried a little hard on some of it.
Yeah, like her superhero her quote unquote superhero costume, that they got her. Very Native American. I get the point behind it. I mean, they really delved into her Native history. I don't know. I felt like it was the outfit was a little over the top, because they put a little piece of everything into it, and I just felt like it was a little too much. So it kind of distracted me. But the big problem I had with it was how easily they defeated Kingpin.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty cool when she did her little fucking Harukin thing and gave Bonnie and her grandmother the powers too, and then they kicked everybody's ass, which I was fine with that part. But when she she did that symbol that her mother had made and put it on Fisk's chest, and he was like, and you see him kind of flashing and kind of calming down, and she goes into his head, and his anger is trying to break through the wall, and she's like, let it go, and then he snaps out of it. He's like, what did you do to me? I felt the whole thing was very anticlimactic and a little, I don't know if ridiculous is the right word, but I just felt it was too easy, and then he just went his way and they went theirs, and it felt for me, it felt a little out of character for Kingpin. But in the end credit scene, it explains why they went the direction they did, because it's setting up Daredevil Born Again.
Yeah.
Because Fisk is going to run for mayor.
Yeah. So a couple things there. So I told you last week that I wasn't really in love with Maya's powers in general, that I kind of thought, expecting that she was going to be more like a human, that her advantages were things that maybe other people consider to be a disadvantage or a disability, were where her like powers came from, kind of like Daredevil. And it turns out that where they went was that like her ancestors she comes from a long line of powerful women who all had superpowers, magic, really more like magic. Her powers really more like magic than a superpower, I feel like. And she channels her ancestors. I mean, I thought it was cool the way like they showed,
but it's not the normal type of superpower.
Well, it doesn't have to be. Yeah, it doesn't have to be. And I shouldn't complain about magic in that we have at least a lot of Marvel characters wield magic, right?
Yeah.
Like literal magic.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of see what you're saying. Like, it was neat the way they did it, and I really liked that they used kind of her culture and her ancestry. I think that part was good. But I don't know, at times it felt like this was not a Marvel superhero show. Like, it didn't, it made it feel very different from a lot of them. And I don't know that's necessarily a bad thing, but it just made it feel not Marvel. I don't have a better description than that.
Look, I'm all for like a woman-centered story that's in that her power comes, it's female power from a long line of powerful women, right? I'm all for that. For me, it's, I always kind of, I'm like, magic, like, right? Like a little
yeah, you like Harry Potter.
I know, but people don't have superpowers. Magic. They're not mixing superpowers and right? I don't know. I don't know what it is. I mean, there were some very cool images, and not just from the powwow, which was gorgeous, but like that image where she channels the power, and you see all those ancestors that were highlighted in the previous 4 episodes are there standing behind her. I didn't love that she was able.
That was pretty cool.
That was cool. I didn't love it first when she pushed her power to Bonnie and Chula, but they also are direct descendants of the female bloodline, right?
Yeah, so they can share it.
Yeah, it's her grandmother and her first cousin. Why it skipped over them
in the first place, we don't know.
Or why have they not? I mean, have they not? I don't know. Do they need? I don't want to say suffer more, but did they not encounter enough adversity for it to? I mean, look, I can't believe those words are coming out of my mouth, because to say that Native Indigenous American women have not suffered adversity, they're one of the most vulnerable populations in this country in many ways, right? In terms of like demographically or whatever. So I don't mean to say that, but just those characters, maybe it didn't manifest in them yet because they weren't like going through the things that she went through. I don't know. Or maybe every single person in the bloodline doesn't get the power. I don't know.
Or maybe they had the potential, they just didn't know it. Like maybe what you're saying, I get what you're saying. Like if they didn't have something bad necessarily specifically happen to them, that they wouldn't have had a reason to channel it. Like not that they didn't have a hard life, but like they didn't necessarily have people coming after them trying to kill them.
Or what you just said, Jamie. So they're like potential slayers. Like Maya's like the slayer, and they're like the potentials in season 7 who were not yet like called to be a slayer.
Yeah, and like I said, maybe if somebody was attacking them or tried to do something bad, like immediately violent to them, that maybe they would have manifested. We don't know.
Yeah.
There'd be a lot of different things.
Yeah.
But so I don't know. I like that it was different. It just, like I said, to me, it doesn't always feel like a Marvel superhero. Like it feels like a separate. It doesn't feel as integrated, I guess, into the MCU to me.
Well, like Jamie, not yet. Maybe not.
No, you're right. You're right. Not yet. That's fair.
I mean, these aren't supposed to be. These all are setups for future movies. Marvel's not doing these because they're truly interested in bringing us like little known stories.
Right. But I just mean like, I don't know. Like when you watch a Marvel show, like it usually feels like a Marvel show. This did not, to me, as much feel like a superhero show. But to be fair, at saying that, they're all different. I mean, Loki is completely different than any of the other shows too. So that's what I said. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just like if you didn't tell me it's Marvel, I wouldn't necessarily know.
I mean, what about Hawkeye? Had completely zero superpowers in the entire show, right? It's just
maybe it's because I already knew who Hawkeye was. There's a good chance that that's why it felt more Marvel.
Something you got to get yourself out of looking at or thinking, Jamie, is you've kind of pigeonholed yourself based on the broader scale, because Marvel's a lot more than just, the big superhero teams.
Yeah,
You know what
that's
I
true.
mean?
That's true.
I mean, and that's kind of what and that's kind of the point on what they're doing now with the plan. I mean, we had Werewolf by Night, and now we've got the Echo series, and I think Wonder Man is coming next, which I don't understand why.
What?
But they're kind of Wonder Man, yes.
Never heard of him. I got Wonder Man.
No relation to Wonder Woman, who's in DC.
That's not even Marvel.
Listen, don't even ask. All right, what Wonder? Yeah, we're not even going there right now. But that's kind of what their plan is, to branch out and tell lesser known stories and kind of side characters. That's like, to start it out. Yeah, you've got WandaVision, you've got Falcon and Winter Soldier, you've got Loki. To kind of say, hey, here's Disney Plus, watch our shows. And now it's kind of folding into the lesser knowns, and yeah, they're all going to connect to the broader things and the movies, wherever, like, the end credit with Fisk and the whole, watching the news about the mayor and everything. That's going to lead right into Born Again for Daredevil.
Well, and so I want to ask you about that end credit scene. Like, does anybody believe? So when Maya puts her fingers on Fisk on Kingpin, and she's trying to she's like, let go of the pain, let it go, and he's like, what did you do to me? As though he's almost mad that she cured it. None of us believe he's been changed and been cured. He's not running for mayor because he wants to help the people of New York, right? He's he's running for mayor because he's got his nefarious plan to amass power or whatever, right? Like when he says, what did you do to me? I mean, all she did was maybe make him confront his pain, and maybe it did nothing for him. I'm sure it did nothing for him, right? He's a major villain of the next phase, right?
Right, but but does it really matter? I mean, I feel like whatever she did, I think she did to give him that. I mean, as much as he was evil and everything, I think that she probably to some extent did care about him, even though it was twisted, because he took care of her some, and she was able or tried to give him something to help him. Whether it worked or not, I don't think she did it with the intention of saying, if this doesn't make you good, I'm going to murder you. You know what I mean? I mean, she was trying to get him, whatever she was trying to do, get him to see, to confront it, to realize what he was doing. I don't know. But it was like a gift to him, I feel like it was what she could do with her powers to try to make it easier for him. Whether it worked or not is kind of irrelevant, I feel like. She's a good person, and she tried to do something to help him rather than just slit his throat. Not that
neither of you have seen the Netflix shows, correct?
Correct. I haven't, no.
Okay, so just to give you a quick idea of who Fisk is and what his, power. Yes, Fisk is all about the power, but there's we say it all the time. The villains don't know they're villains; they think they're the good guys.
Right, because otherwise it would be boring.
Fisk actually genuinely cares about the city of New York himself. He believes the stuff he does is for the betterment of the city. He believes his killing people and doing this and doing that and all the things, he feels like he actually believes that is for the betterment of the general population. And if you don't agree with him, then you die. That's his belief. He actually thinks that he. Go ahead, Karen. What?
That's very much like Thanos.
Well, Thanos wasn't wrong. It was his methods.
Yeah.
Overpopulation is a problem. But anyway, yeah. So Fisk generally Fisk wants to be mayor, to help the city of New York, and amass great power at the same time. Like, two goals, one means.
Mm-hmm.
He's a very Fisk is a very complicated character. He's not, just he's the bad guy and that's that. Like Jamie said, she felt for him a little because as watching those scenes of him as a child and seeing all that, yeah, of course you're gonna feel for him. Did he become the sociopath that he is today because of his childhood? Maybe, maybe not. And you guys, with you guys not having seen it,
It's
the
hard
whole
to
thing
judge.
play out. It's hard to judge. You're just getting snippets.
Yeah,
from these, so.
But I mean, he's definitely like is he evil? Yeah, but he's like seriously mentally and emotionally effed up also, right?
There's different levels of evil. Just like we said, there's different levels of morality when we talk about.
No, you're right.
Yes, but most people who like are mentally and emotionally messed up by their childhoods
aren't necessarily evil. Yes,
don't form the tracksuit mafia and hire assassins.
No.
Like
no. I mean, I'm just saying there are people maybe that I would consider more evil than him. Like he seems to have some twisted, maybe not a good one, but some form of a moral compass where some villains have absolutely none. Yeah, it doesn't make him okay, but he's maybe not as evil as some of the other ones on the scale of evil.
I mean, I find him actually somewhat. I find him somewhat more engaging than who is the name of the villain in Black Panther who is played by the guy who was a Wakandan prince also who was raised in
Killmonger.
Killmonger, right? Yeah. I did not find Killmonger very sympathetic throughout most of that, like any of that movie. I mean, he like intellectually the things he said, I'm like, yeah, I get it. He's very angry. Like I can see why any person raised as he was in America and what he went through, the way he didn't go through the things that necessarily like Fisk went through, but I can see why he's an angry man. But he was not at all like and he literally wanted to like kill his cousin and maybe kill a bunch of his relatives and like amass world power and like blow shit up or whatever, right? Like I do find Fisk somewhat a more I mean,
that's why I said he has somewhat of a moral compass, maybe not a great one, but like he didn't want to kill her, for instance. Like he could have just killed her to get what he wanted, but that he didn't want to do that, and that doesn't make him a good person. But
I just think he articulates his history and his worldview in a way that to me is more
sympathetic, more you can at least maybe understand how he got there a little bit.
Of course, Killmonger had to be horrible because Black Panther. But anyway, so I mean. So when it ends, it feels like it's done. Like I don't really feel like I want or need to see. They're not planning a second season of Echo, which is fine with me because I don't think there's anything to say, right?
Yeah, I think it ended well. I mean, I don't think I'm like wanting to know what happened. I don't feel like I need to see anymore. Not that I wouldn't enjoy it if it had another one, but
I don't see another season of Echo. I wouldn't be surprised if she does show up in other shows. I mean, she could show up in Daredevil.
Yeah, I'd love to see more of her family again too. Like, especially her grandfather. I loved Graham Greene in this. He was awesome.
Yeah, and he and Tenchu Cardinal were great on screen together. Also,
I didn't know her name. Yeah, she was. Too. They both were.
Yeah, they were all great. Yeah. So, all right. Well, good. Good. I mean, if it had gone to 6, could they have? I mean, maybe AJ, you felt very rushed through episode 5. Would there have been a way to do an episode 6? I mean, it did really end with very little fighting. And, I mean, there's this cool scene where Biscuits drives the monster truck over the mafia.
There's a part I'm kind of curious actually, because you're right. There was some stuff that felt a little rushed. They filmed 8 episodes. They cut it down to 5.
Oh, really?
That's surprising.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's where I would like to hear from the editor and be like, okay, why did you think that you didn't? Well, not just the editor, the director, I guess too. But why did you?
Or Disney.
or Disney or the executive producer. But you know what I mean. I'm just saying. Like, I'd like
why did Disney make you guys cut it down to 5?
Yeah, but also like, why did you think? Like, why were those parts not important to the story? Like, I'm curious what they cut.
Right.
And like,
why they cut it.
and where does that footage?
You know, and there were some, and that's the thing. Like, there were some scenes that felt very choppy. I'm trying to remember. There was a scene specific that I kind of felt like I missed. Like, I blinked and I missed something. The scene, and maybe it was just the way they transitioned it, but I feel like maybe they cut something, which is why they transitioned it the way they did. She went from being with Fisk to sitting on the end of the dock in the blink of an eye, and it was kind of jarring, the transition.
Yeah.
Usually there's a better segue.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help that Disney Plus just puts commercials in. I think they pick a moment, like a time spot, and stick the commercial there, regardless of what's happening.
Yeah.
That doesn't help either.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing is a lot of times these networks, like, they originally were without commercials, and then they decided to make more money, so they added in commercials. And I think they need to learn
Netflix
how
starts tomorrow.
They need to learn how to make them for commercials if they're going to have it on certain people. I mean, not everybody gets the commercials, but still, you got to do it, you know?
I mean, I was texting you guys that I feel
like that too. I still have the other Netflix, but it probably is the same way, I'm guessing, if you have commercials.
I think I was texting you guys. I think Disney is having more commercials more often, and they're cutting them at very tense scenes. Do you guys ever watch? I'm comparing them to Comet. If you guys watch this TV channel Comet that shows like reruns of sci-fi and a lot of schlocky movies,
and commercials. I remember you saying that.
And they shove the commercial. Like, most shows that are made for broadcast television have a natural break, and those
because that's the way they always film things.
And the jokers at that channel are not adhering to the break, and I feel like Disney is like that. They're like, "Oh, spend 3 minutes, time for an ad." It doesn't matter if the character's in the middle of a very, tense.
I don't know. I still get salty about that. I'm of the opinion that if I'm paying for TV, and granted, you had them on cable too, so I shouldn't say that, but I still feel like if I'm paying for streaming, I shouldn't have to watch commercials in the middle of my show. Like, at least stick them at the beginning.
More for them.
Like they used to for Hulu. I know, but like, I'm paying for it already. I don't.
Right, but you're not paying enough.
No, I'm just saying I don't think they should have them, and I know
I'm not. I don't disagree.
I'm sure all the people who pay for it rather not have commercials, but I'm just saying.
And Netflix starts tomorrow.
Netflix starts what tomorrow?
Commercials.
Oh, do they? I have to switch down to the cheaper plan anyway. I'm still, I think, on the.
I can't complain at all because I'm on somebody else's family plan, and I can't just. I need to upgrade.
Yeah, most of my stuff I get through screeners anyway, so I'm not necessarily the best person, but I don't know. I just always feel like that. Like, it pisses me off. Like, at least film it so there's room for commercials, so we don't feel like it's cutting in the middle.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hulu was awesome. Hulu used to have the commercials all at the beginning, and that was cool. Like, do that because I can walk out of the room for a few.
Yeah.
Which is why they don't do that. I know, but yeah.
All right. Well, I put in a fighting shot because there's like not anything in the press kit from these last couple episodes, and there was none of those. I was hoping for some cool powwow shots. Thanks, Disney. But we can move on.
Look into using just until we get like confirmation of allowed to do certain things. We don't want to do anything that could.
Well, we're gonna. Here's
Grogu up, but we don't know what to do.
Dose of Grogu before we move on. Maybe I'll get a different Grogu pick next week.
You can get to
this week, recently, Percy Jackson and the Olympians dropped.
I have not seen it yet.
Hey, real quick before we jump over, while we're still in the Marvel vein, the boys and I watched the Marvels the other night.
Oh, yeah, and I haven't seen it yet.
No, I haven't either.
It wasn't awful. It wasn't great either. But Aman Vellani definitely is the brightest thing in that whole movie.
She's great.
And without her, the movie's not as good. Like, actually, I mean, a lot of people complain. Without going into any detail, I mean, I think people just like to complain. Because the movie, it wasn't awful. There was only really two things in the movie that annoyed me. So I mean, that's not that bad. When it's only two things. And the villain and the villain was not very strong. The villain was not strong at all.
Okay.
Bad choice of a villain. The best part though was the end credits. The two end credit scenes are the best part of the movie.
All right. So this is a case of glad you're waited for TV.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
So I'll try to watch it this week, and then we can compare some notes on it. Even though we're way behind on that, but it's not like a ton of people saw it in the movies. So
what comes out the 7th, right? I think it's the 7th. I want to say.
I don't know when it comes out in Disney Plus.
Because I've been waiting.
TV Fairy brought it to me.
All right.
Oh, okay, yeah. I could go there. That'll work.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Now on to that other guy, Percy Jackson.
So, Jamie, you've seen no Percy Jackson yet?
I have not. I had every intention, and if I'm 100% honest, was going to go watch it, and then I got The Ones Who Live, and I went and watched that instead because I needed to watch The Screamers. But I do want to see this. You guys can talk. I'll listen to you. Is it good? Is it worth watching? That would be my next question.
I've seen 2 episodes.
It sounds like Karen's like, I didn't like it. No?
I've seen like 5 episodes, all the episodes that were available, which I think is 5.
I liked it.
I think it's fine. I think I'm not the target audience, right?
That's fair.
This movie isn't made for people. This show is
it's geared towards a younger audience.
Yeah, and I watch shows that are for younger. It's fine. Like there are things that are, I had seen the previous movie. It's not like I feel like I'm watching Barney or anything like that. It's not, a little.
I've seen the movie. It's just been so long.
The characters are all supposed to be like 13. And, it's based on a book that was written for kids about that age. It's fine. It looks good. They're spending money on it. It looks pretty decent. It's better than the movie. AJ, did you watch it with the boys?
Yeah, we watched 2 episodes the last couple of days.
What did you think and what did they think? Because Damon's right in the sweet spot, probably, right?
Yeah, Damon liked it a lot. Already read the books, so he's enjoying how closely they're sticking to the books for the most part. And I'm entertained by it. I like, I didn't mind the movies. This is a little more adapted straight from the book. So I've always liked the mythology stuff. So
yeah. So I mean, Jamie, I don't know if you read the books or if you saw the original movie.
I saw the original movie. I don't know if I saw all the movies. I know I saw at least the first movie, maybe the second, I want to say, but it's been forever.
I mean, it's a very typical YA story of like the lonely child who's a little odd and compared to others and doesn't have any friends, who finds out they're special and they have a mission to like save the world or something.
Yeah.
Right? It's very that's the Hunger, well, not the Hunger Games, but that's Harry
Potter.
Potter.
It's just about every YA.
Yeah, that's who's got music going on?
Well, me.
that was my phone. Sorry,
that's your phone. And so the main character is played by Walker Scoville, who is the kid from the Atom Project, who is obviously just a little bit older than he was in the Atom Project. He's pretty good and a likable young man. What happened there? It was supposed to be, I don't know what happened there. And then he's got this friend who is a satyr, right? Who is like his guardian angel type. And then Annabeth, she's the Hermione of the group. She's like the hyper competent, super like skilled, smart warrior one, who's on the quest with them.
Cool.
AJ, what'd you think about the de-aging of Walker Scoville? You saw those flashbacks, right?
It was all right.
They did it digitally, I take it?
Yeah, no, they didn't shoot it when he was 7. He's like 13 now.
Well, I figured I would think they would use a different actor.
No, I think it's him, right? Like it's him. It's definitely him. Like
Or he has a younger brother they
Could
meet,
be.
which is also
Yeah,
possible.
maybe they could have. I don't know what they did. I didn't really think about it that hard.
Well, you guys are talking. I'll look it up and see if I can find out. How's that?
All right. I mean, he definitely looks Scobell. That's her name, Scobell, right? Yeah, I don't know what they did. Maybe Jamie can look it up because he's definitely. I mean,
no, it says there's a young Percy Jackson. It gives a different actor.
Oh, really?
Asriel Dolman. Yeah. So whoever it is, I guess that kid did a very good job. It sounds like
he looks enough like him that I was convinced that he was de-aged in all these scenes.
Yeah, it lists him, so it's a different actor. So kudos to that kid because he did a good job, obviously.
Yeah, he did. He's in a lot of scenes. He appeared. I don't know what you saw. You saw this scene in the museum, right, AJ? This is an episode like 1.
Yeah.
And then there's another scene where he's learning to swim, which might be in a later episode. A flashback to him learning how to swim. And so, I mean, the first episode is about him getting kicked out of school, and he has to go home from boarding school, and he has a loser stepfather who I kind of really like that guy. Like, he has this terrible. Well, Jamie, there's this.
It's funny the way you said it.
There's this complex relationship where the stepfather is a total jerk to him, and you think that there maybe is like an abusive relationship, but the mother comes home from work and he turns into like a pussycat. Like, she speaks to him sternly and he backs down immediately. Like, this is not like, this is a man, like, you saw that, right, AJ? Like, this is a guy who the mother runs the house.
He's a bum.
He's a bum, but
he's a submissive bum.
He's in love with this woman, or he knows that this woman is his meal ticket or something, but he backs down right away. And the way the mother shuts him down and takes control, AJ, made me think, why does she allow him to treat her son that way? I know that's not the show we're watching, right? But I was a little bit like, gee, why didn't you say don't speak to my son like that? Or maybe she never observes it. Maybe he only does it when she's not around.
Okay.
Anyway, the show is chock full of guest stars. AJ, I didn't recognize her at first.
Yeah, that's Karen. Karen from
Will and Grace. That's Megan Mullally.
Oh, geez. Yeah, now that you said that.
Megan Mullally. I couldn't think of the actress's name for a second there.
Yeah. I couldn't.
Yeah, I recognized her right away.
I didn't at first.
It was her voice, I think.
It was her voice, right? Because she doesn't, I mean, that wig does a very good job of, I think it's the whole like dowdy appearance where she's got that sort of old ladyish kind of tweed. It's not fully old lady. It's slightly, she does have a leather overcoat, but she's got this like tweed kind of jacket and a scarf. And it's a very, and maybe I'm just used to seeing her in Karenish kind of costumes, right? I didn't recognize her at all at first. There's a ton of what's his name? Lin-Manuel Miranda is in it. And in one of the early episodes, and there's a whole bunch of other guest stars who I won't mention yet who come in the later episodes. And of course, it is well known that he's not in it yet, but this was Lance Reddick's final role, was in Percy Jackson. His final television role was in, I think he's got some movies that are completed and not out yet. But I haven't gotten to him yet, but he will be in it later. So AJ, you saw then when he gets to camp, right? He gets to camp in episode 1 or 2.
Yes. Yep. He's at the camp in episode 2.
He goes, Jamie, to like learn how to be a demigod camp. So all these kids are half god. Either they have one parent. You saw, yeah.
I was gonna say that's in the movie. So yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. So he goes to camp. And let's see what else is in here. Oh, so you didn't get to episode 3 yet? Did you get? Is this episode 3?
No, it's just when they meet who?
That's Medusa. They're gonna meet
her.
That's Medusa. Remember in the original, they go Medusa's house. It's like Hansel and Gretel's house, kind of like it's in the woods with this lady who's like, "Come in for lunch." In the movie, the same thing kind of happens. I loved her costume, so we'll talk about that next week when they get to meet Medusa. 5 are out, and so I've watched the whole 5. While I was Sunday, I was too exhausted to do anything except lay on my TV all day, lay on my couch, take naps, and watch TV all day on Sunday. I was so exhausted from the Ravens football game on Saturday that I couldn't.
I was gonna say what happened. I guess we got the answer to that. That's funny.
Oh my God. I worked 10 hours serving a bunch of drunk people. It was so freezing cold out that they drank pretty much all the whiskey in the stadium. And I was just too wiped out to do anything. And so I watched the whole 5. So we'll talk about it some more. It's decent. I don't know that this show is going to require us to do a lot of in-depth. We could probably just blow through the whole thing and then talk about it when it's over, maybe. This is not a show that requires a weekly dissection of what happened. I don't think. It's like a kid's show, but it's perfectly fine. And they're putting some money into it. Disney's putting some money into their shows. I mean, as we know from having seen the movie, Percy Jackson is the son of the god Poseidon, and there's a lot of water involved in his adventures eventually, right? And water effects are one of the hardest things to do. And so, you got to put money into that stuff. And people dressed up as like half goat people and half horse and stuff, right? So, the centaurs didn't look that good.
No, thank you. Sorry, I blanked for a second. Jesus Christ, I'm getting old. Karen, does this happen to you? Oh my God.
Yes. What do you mean this is happening to me? Are you saying I'm old? I am old.
Well, listen, I'm not calling you old, but you are elder than I am. How about that?
I am. Right.
Hey, I can't even remember character names anymore.
Yeah.
Not by much, but the centaur. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was like, I felt like he looked too tall. Like
his body was too tall, right?
You know what it is? Like I don't know. I feel like in the past in movies and stuff when they do a centaur, it's like they know how to make them not look kind of ridiculous. Like he was a full blown horse.
Yeah.
And he was just like still so it was just like he was too tall. He was too far up there. Like I don't know. I feel like I've seen centaurs and other like there was too much of his body.
Yes, he was
had
a long torso, right? Like my first reaction was like, oh gee, the centaurs in Harry Potter look better. Of course, they're not wearing
a lot more money into that, though, to be fair.
Well, they're also not trying to wear a 3-piece suit on the human half of their body in Harry Potter, right? They're like shirtless. They're there. They don't wear clothes.
Is there a reason why they're trying to wear clothes?
Well, he's the headmaster of the school, right? The guy who's the centaur. And so his personality is like of a guy who would always be wearing a shirt and a tie, right? As opposed to like the other guy, who's Dionysus. So he's just like wearing an aloha shirt, drinking beers. So his personality is a little, but there's also, maybe in episode 3, there's a scene where the kids are riding on a train and they look out the window and they see centaurs running by in a herd. And they're did you see that? And they also had not just a very tall kind of torso and body, but also like superior posture. They were very erect, right? I thought the centaur was not the best effect they had in this show. The goat legs on the satyr are better, and the Medusa hair and other things that we see, other monsters that we see are better. Yeah. But, they're still putting money into it and still looks pretty good.
The Minotaur looked good.
Yeah, the Minotaur did look really good. That was a good scene. That could have been kind of bad. I really liked when the mother opened the door and, smashed him in the head, No, when she, not opened the door, when she, played chicken with that truck so the truck would, knock him off the side of the car. And it ripped off the door. Yeah. All right, well, I'll be interested to hear how the kids like it as it unspools also, since they're really the target.
Yeah, like I said, they seem to be enjoying it so far.
Cool. So, all right. I guess we can wrap that up. So we have 2 more things. I finished Bodies. Jamie, you only saw a little bit of the first episode, right? And AJ,
yes, I do intend to finish it, but
it.
at the time I couldn't because of whatever.
AJ finished it also. Jamie, are you going to finish it anytime soon, or?
Yeah, but you can still, unless there's like a super huge spoiler, you think I'd be better off not knowing.
There is.
I don't care if you talk.
I mean, there's lots of spoilers.
Well, but I mean, is it something that's going to ruin it? Like I should hang up and go.
Well, I mean, so what's next after this is just True Detective. So maybe you can stay on for a couple minutes and then hang up, and we'll get into it a little more.
Sounds like a plan. Do you want me to talk about the one other thing I've seen this week? I was going to mention.
Why don't you talk?
You know what? Why I'm doing that though? I always say that. I think I better look and make sure that we're allowed to review it now before I say that. I am not good with dates. Well, give me 1 second. Keep talking. Just give me a second. I'm looking up my email.
So AJ, this show was popping up on my Netflix queue, whatever list. My Netflix list. Can't say that either. For a little while now, like 2 weeks. It came out. It's been out for a couple weeks, right? And I was flicking past it, partly because the name Bodies to me, I just was like, oh, it's a murder show. I didn't even realize it was a time travel show at first. And the image that comes up on Netflix is just Heading Hill. The guy, the 1890s guy, is the guy that shows up on my queue, right? And I was like, oh, this is a historical murder show. I don't care about that. And I flicked past it a few times before I finally realized what it was about and watched it. The name, I guess, it was based on a novel, and I guess that was the name of the novel, and that's maybe why it's named that. I don't know what I would call it if not Bodies, because really
does it make sense?
Well, and it is about the same body appearing in 4 time.
Wow.
Eras,
yeah,
right?
I assumed it was a murder mystery, but I didn't know it was time travel till I started watching it and reading about it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I didn't know it was time travel either until I started watching it.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to really It's funny actually because I saw it. I check out. I look at the new and upcoming every once in a while, and I saw the trailer for it. And I was kind of intrigued. I was like, this kind of looks interesting. And I was like, I don't know. It seems kind of weird. I'm not sure what to make of it. So then I was like, finally, so I put it in my list. And I was looking for something one day. I was like, you know what? Let me watch the first episode. So I watched the first episode. I was like, okay, this is kind of interesting. I'm not really sure how this body is keeps showing up in the same place in, 3-4 different centuries. And then, I start, as it goes around, keeps going some more. I'm like, okay, this has got to be time travel related. And then you find out it is time travel related. And then, and then it all kind of comes together and actually makes sense. And I actually really enjoyed it once it gets going, but it does take a minute to get going.
Yeah, I complained to you that I thought it was pretty slow also. And it does take, and as you said, you're like, oh, why is this body showing up? You don't really think of time travel doesn't become clear for some time into the series, really,
yeah.
Right? Yeah. I think it was too short. So I think
it's based on a novel.
Yeah.
They probably went with what they had.
Well, I don't know. Sometimes they excise huge chunks out of a novel to make something shorter, right? I think there are huge chunks of story that are not adequately explained that could have been we're getting some feedback, you guys, that could have done with another episode or a little more time in each episode. There are some things that and so this story, I don't want to spoil it for Jamie, but this type of time travel that we're talking about is a closed loop, right? Where what happened in the past affects what happens in the present, what happens in the present and the future affects what happens in the past, and it's this closed loop that you can never break, which was kind of a mind-bending at points. I'd love to talk about it a little bit with AJ either now or later.
Yeah, you could. I can head off, but let me. I was just gonna jump in and and talk about what I did see really quick, and then you guys can talk.
Sure.
I watched. Now I did not see all of it yet, just because again, only so many hours in the day. But I've seen the beginning of the season of Resident Alien, and I was pleasantly, well, I'm not surprised because I expected it to be good. But I mean, I really liked it. As always, it's super funny, and I probably should not watch it at 4 o'clock in the morning when people are trying to sleep because I make people up laughing so loud. But it was really good. So that comes out soon as well. That comes
February
out February 14th.
2nd, 14th.
No,
Oh,
February
Valentine's Day.
Yeah, is the season 3 premiere. So that's, yeah, I really liked it. My one comment is though the kids have grown a lot. Like they're at that age, they're all of a sudden growing and like they look
Paul Walt.
like a lot different. Not that that's unexpected. I'm just saying that was one of the things I was like, is that the same kid at first? I was like, is that Max? I'm like, yeah, it is. It's just the kid grew.
Oh yeah, kids grow so fast that you can't really keep up with them on a TV schedule.
Paul Walt.
Tall Walt. He's Tall Walt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so you guys can talk about your show. I don't want to be spoiled too much. I will leave because I don't think there's really anything else I've seen, and I can't really give you much input into this. I do want to finish watching it though. I just have not. I know I say that a lot, but I did start it. I just, didn't have time to finish it.
I think if you can get through the first 2 episodes, which I found slow and a little, I was like, why does this have to be in here? If you can get through those, and I don't mean get through, it wasn't a nightmare, terrible slog. I was just like, oh, I'm not sure if I'm really loving this show. And then it kind of grew on me as it went along. So I think if you don't turn it off right away, you'll be fine.
What's helpful is that the characters are very likable. So that kind of helps get you through till the action starts.
Well, I will give it a shot.
Yeah.
Now, what do we before I check out? What do we have next week? Or is there anything else?
I have no idea.
I mean, True Detective will be on. Quantum Leap is back.
Quantum Leap's
back. Oh no, it's not back.
On the 30th. That's
back
on the 30th.
It's back on next Tuesday.
The
night that we're on, yeah.
Which means we won't cover it until the following week.
And so we'll have a little more Percy Jackson. We'll have a little more True Detective. Maybe I can. Maybe it'll be a little TV discovery of what we've dug up in the last week.
Yeah, and I'll try to watch Percy Jackson Bodies, at least get through a little bit of it and see.
Yeah,
through it.
Yeah.
All righty, guys. Well, thanks, and I'll talk to you next week.
All right.
Who's listened and who listened live, especially. We appreciate it. But yeah, I don't want to be completely spoiled on the time travel show.
All right.
So.
All right.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
All right.
Good night,
Bye.
Jamie.
Good night.
Bye.
Wait. Oops.
All right. So I don't have access to a Netflix press site, and I also didn't know if we were going to talk about this at length. So this is the only image we have from Bodies.
That's whatever. It's fine.
This is an interesting key art because I'm pointing again. You can't see me, but the picture is old Elias, right? Who is kind of barely in it, right? He's not barely in it, but that picture of him is as the commander, who's barely in it, right? And our 4 detectives are a little. So there's a lot that I liked about this show, and there are some things that when I think about them, this is one of those shows that there's some stuff they could have cut easily to make room for a better explanation of some other stuff. But, to Jimmy's point about maybe it's not explained in the book. I haven't read the book. Maybe it's not explained in the book, some of the stuff that's bothering me. Or maybe they did cut a lot of stuff. But the whole idea of it being a closed time loop that Elias, you know what I mean? It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy that he goes back in time and sets things in motion to make his child self do the thing that causes him to go back in time. Right? It's a it's not like go back in time and kill him.
See, the problem, I mean, I don't know. It's very chicken or egg, because the loop starts with him going back in time to it's, I don't know. This is a tough one.
To become really... and he's his own great grandfather.
Yeah. Which I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I don't know either if that's really I'm not sure
when it became apparent that he was his great grandfather, I was like, that's a paradox. I was like, that doesn't, you can't, no. Like, it just doesn't, because where did he come from in the first place? Because no matter how you do it, especially since it's a time loop, you've got to start somewhere, and the past has to start first in that situation.
Yeah, so this show devotes relatively little time to explaining time travel to us, right? Like, there's one scene where Professor Defoe is explaining to Agent Maplewood about like the time machine and how you can simultaneously go backward and forward in time and whatever. But there's never any discussion about I mean, there's multiple things that would be considered a paradox, like when Hassan talks to herself. Shahan is her name, right? Detective Shahan. She talks to herself.
Sorry, my earbuds died.
So there's another episode that would be considered. It would be considered. Most shows would consider it a paradox when Hassan meets herself from 20, 30 years later, right? Like in most time travel shows, you can't talk to yourself because even though the bomb is averted, like just the fact of telling you that you're alive in 30 years is altering the timeline, right? It's all, even though then they disappear, which, I mean, I guess they got that right, that when the bomb blast is averted, like Elias disappears and doesn't exist because he never went back in time to become his own grandfather. And future Hassan
doesn't become grizzled.
Doesn't. Boy, that was some some of the worst makeup I've seen on TV in a long time, huh? Like, they spent so much money on the costumes in 1890, they had nothing left for some old lady makeup for Hassan in the final scenes.
See, this is I don't know, like, I enjoyed it for what it was, and I tried not to think too much about it afterwards, because it can hurt.
Yeah.
Because the whole problem, I don't know how much you heard before my earbuds died, but you got to start somewhere with this whole thing, and it starts in the future, but it can't, because the fact that he's his own great grandfather is what screws up the whole thing. You can't start in the future because you don't exist unless it's already happened. So, I mean, it depends on how you look at time, though. I mean, if you look at time being relative and everything happening at the same time, then okay, maybe an argument can be made that works.
But it would have been so easy to just not make Barber be part of the family and just have him be a member of the cult, right?
Well, like, that would have been easier.
And be like, I'm in on the plan, and I'm gonna like. I mean, I really have a problem. I mean, I don't have a problem with the show. I have a problem with people who, like, their entire plan is like, let's have a baby with the intention of making his life as horrible as possible so that he'll set off a nuclear bomb for us, right? Like, the plan is to, like, let me impregnate a junkie and abandon her and then get social services to take the baby away and make sure he goes to a bunch of shitty homes and some shitty, like, they purposely, like, give this kid a shitty life to turn him into a monster. And yet it doesn't really adequately describe. So the reason the commander wanted to create a new... So what's missing is how Elias goes from setting off the bomb to becoming the commander. There's like 30 years missing. in which he becomes the supreme commander of England or of the world or something. I don't know. And that part's missing because he's all about, there's this lecturing about how society was unfair and the rich fat cats were getting richer and the poor can go to hell. And look, there's a lot of inequality in our society. That's all legit argument. But that is not what Elias was motivated by. Elias had a miserable childhood and felt unloved. And the idea was to go back in the past to create a society where everybody felt loved, and like that whole aspect of inequality, like where does that happen? Like after he sets off a bomb and kills 800,000 people, Elias realizes that society was inequitable. Like he never, I mean, first of all, he was like 15, he was too young to, right? Like that whole part of it is not developed adequately to me. Maybe if we had seen how he becomes, I mean, this is the paradox. Like he was bred and primed and raised to the bomb off. We never saw any part where he was bred to believe that society was he was a miserable person. He wasn't an angry class warrior, right?
Yeah, there's definitely some holes.
That part is flawed to me.
I mean, it's an interesting concept.
It was,
and that's the thing. If you don't think about it too hard, it's okay.
Yeah.
But you and I get together to do it with stuff like this, and it never ends well.
Yeah. I mean, they also didn't get into, and this is not the show that this was about, but the idea that when you go back in time, you could actually land in 4 different time. Like he lands in 1890, 1941, and the dead body, and in 2023, right? And that your dead body could appear at 3 times.
I was actually okay with that because they kind of explained that science. Whether or not that's a thing, they did explain it at least.
They did.
How it fractured.
They did. They kind of just threw in the part. I mean, Defoe does explain a little bit early to Maplewood. He says, you go backwards and forwards in time simultaneously. Like that was kind of explained well. And yet no one even considers, oh my God, did he also go I don't know, why didn't he land every single July 23rd for every single year? Or why it occurs to nobody that he, like, people have had a time machine for 30 years. It doesn't occur to them that he could go forward in time also. Or what? Or why did they just go back in time and kill Elias or kill his mother? Why don't you do a Terminator and kill his mother before he's born, right?
You do that too.
Like instead of going back to 1890 and trying to convince a guy that you're right, but you can't go through with a gun, right? Like, so it's like the Terminator. When you go through, you come out naked on the other side. Nothing will go through except the human body, right? So you can't take a gun through, but I mean, I know why you can't go back and just kill him, because then there wouldn't be a show.
I was just going to say that.
But I mean, it was good. At first I didn't really like the 1890 storyline, and then it became, I mean, that's the one with the most, is it the one with the most holes in it? I mean, why does he have to marry Hillinghead's daughter? Why can't he just get a rando wife? Although I really did I did not feel rushed at all when I saw the story of their life together and how happy they were in their cult. And she's very happy with him up to the moment she's shot in the head, right? And then I did like the twist where they plant the seed in his mind that he might have regrets. And like Maplewood Hillinghead says he's like, you're going to ruin her life. And he actually didn't ruin her life until Hillinghead said, you're going to ruin her life. And then he did ruin her life.
Right.
Right. He ruined his own daughter's life by playing in that insecurity. That was kind of cool. And that didn't really feel rushed to me. I kind of ended up liking that storyline. At first I was like, wait, this is kind of boring. This guy's walking around. Wait, why is he in love with this other? He sees a guy and it's love at first sight on the street. What does that have to do with anything? It's kind of convoluted the way they get him to turn himself in, but it makes sense. because it puts him in the right. I don't know how they managed to put this crippled woman, crippled is what they called her back in that time period, right? A woman who can't walk is placed in a cell. Like, that was a stroke of luck, but I mean, that's fine. I don't have problems with that stuff. It made more sense to me. The 1941 story was the weakest, probably, except it ends up being the most important in the end.
Yeah. The twist that the old lady was Polly and killed the little girl.
Yeah.
Good twist.
And then that they get Whitechapel, white men to leave the record was kind of cool. But I mean, it was pretty good. I guess maybe I should appreciate having a story that's a closed time loop because you almost never see it. I'm trying to think of another like really closed loop. And the idea of a closed loop ensured that they had been trying and like there's a scene where Hassan's like, look, we've tried everything and we can't break it, which implies that they have sent people back in time before or gone back in time before, right?
Yeah.
No, that also is like the Terminator where Kyle says it's a one-way trip. You can't go back. Like when Maplewood jumps in, she's like, I'm going to die back there. And then she's like, oh shit, I forgot I was paralyzed. Forgot I can't walk. What do you think about the end where she turns out to be the cab driver? That bothered me, maybe.
I didn't know what to make of that, honestly. I was just kind of like, eh. It left me kind of wondering if it wasn't until after I got finished watching it that I did a little research on it. So it kind of left me wondering if there was plans for a season 2, and then that's when I found out it was actually based on a novel, and there is no second novel. So
it's just a little cliffhangery thing.
Netflix could continue and just do their own thing, or it could just be done. I hope it's just done because there's really no other story to tell. It's done.
It's done. I mean, there's no way she could still be alive from 1890, but it makes me think like if somehow she had jumped more than once, or is she from an alternate? I don't know. It's just a little throwaway thing, really, right? Yeah. There's no other novels, just a throwaway thing for her to be there. I thought it was pretty good. It's actually pretty good. We picked it apart a little bit because you and I are like, the time travel is wrong. It's a paradox. But I think for most people, it's probably cool.
Yeah. It's a good concept. It's a good story. We just tend to pick apart the time travel a little bit too much.
Was that your cat? Your cat's a demon.
No, I'm gonna guess that was Jamie texting.
No, it sounded like a cat.
That was Jamie.
Oh, you have a cat noise for Jamie. I'm telling her. All right. So yeah, I recommend that people watch it if they haven't already. They should check out Bodies. It's actually pretty good. And the performances are pretty good. Like all the actors are pretty likable. And I have to give credit to whoever the kid is who plays Elias because he's in constant, like that kid, all he does is emotional trauma for every line he utters in the entire show is like he's basically crying right? By the way, I texted you the most unbelievable part was that people have record players in 2023 because the whole thing hinges on like having a record player at the right moment. But I also, even more than the time travel, perhaps my biggest problem with the plot is that so Elias is a terrorist who tried to set off a nuclear bomb in downtown London. It's averted. And then the anti-terrorism squad allows Hassan to be like, oh, can I drive him back to prison with no police car and no handcuffs and no precautions and stop at his mother's house and let him get out and walk around? Like, it's no wonder that he ends up setting off the bomb because, like, of course, like, that was ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
That might have been like, I just couldn't really believe that. I can believe time travel more than I can believe that, right?
True.
I was like, what kind of anti-terrorism operation are you running over there, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, that was one of those we need something to happen, so we're going to do this unbelievable thing moments.
Yeah.
So. All right.
All right. So moving right along.
Detective.
we got one more thing on our calendar, which is True Detective Night Country. I might have to promote that to be the main thing because you can't really see it because I only had a vertical that I could get. True Detective Night Country. I've watched the 2 episodes that are out. Have you seen 2 or just 1?
I just watched the first one. I didn't get a chance to watch the second one. We'll do 2 and 3 next week.
Okay, so we'll just talk about episode number 1, which I have the. So these are our 2 main characters in it, right?
Yep.
Which is Jodie Foster plays Chief Liz Danvers, and Callie Reese. I'm not trying to say her name. Is a state trooper named Evangeline Navarro. She actually that actress. She's a professional boxer as well as an actress. She was like a world champion. I'm not familiar with her, but I read about her a little bit. And she had been a pro. So they're the stars. And in the first episode, so it's like a 30 days of night scenario, right? They're in the dark period in Alaska where it's going to be dark for like however long. And like all these white men, it's kind of important that they're like this is like not a wealthy, it's like a mining town in Alaska, right? It's not like a wealthy town. And these 8 like PhD white dudes working at this research station like all disappear in the middle of the night, and no one knows. There are no clues except there's a tongue sitting on the floor. And Jodie Foster, Chief Danvers, is on the case trying to like figure out the connections. It's creepy, huh?
It's weird. But yeah, it's a little creepy too. Yeah. You know, the funny thing is, like, I only saw season 1 of True Detective, and I remember that the first season, they alluded to the fact that things might be supernatural, but in the end, there was logic behind everything.
Yeah.
But this seems like there's straight up supernatural stuff, unless I mean, in all actuality, I haven't seen episode 2, but the only supernatural thing I've seen is the woman that sees the ghost.
Yes.
Now,
who is played by Fiona Shaw.
So my thought is, all right, it's possible from a logical standpoint, she's not really seeing a ghost. It's all in her head. Because she's crazy, and she witnessed something, which is how she knew where the bodies of the men were. But her mind couldn't, like grasp it, so she made up the fact that she's seeing her dead ex-husband, I'm guessing, or something.
It's her dead husband, yeah.
Dead husband.
There is a moment though when Jodie, who is it? Is it Jodie Foster or Navarro, the first investigator? Oh no, it's the guy who is the delivery man who's coming to deliver the snacks, right. And he goes inside and he's like, "Hello, is anybody here? Is anybody here?" And you do see like maybe a person or a creature, a figure darting like behind him in the hallway, right? And it's not, I mean, it could easily be a normal human being, but it was shot in a way that sure feels a little creepy, right?
Yeah.
There. Yeah. But the way the guys died, I mean, yeah, there's nothing straight up supernatural, but for...
that we know of yet.
They're all naked in a pile in the snow, clearly terrified, right? And like, how did they get out there? I mean, I guess they could have been, I don't know. And there's the guy who has a seizure, right? Right at the beginning. He has this weird seizure and he goes, "She's awake," which I don't know. Maybe when you have a seizure, you say weird shit. I don't know, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there was that too. Yeah.
But I hear you that like maybe, so that's a good thing that maybe Rose saw something and her brain is processing it as though her dead husband led her to, I mean, there's also a part of the show that's about sort of like the tension of the indigenous people and the non-indigenous people who live together in this town, and the culture and belief system of the indigenous people. And like Rose thinks it's totally normal that she saw her dead. She's like, "Oh yeah, it comes by from time to time," basically, right? Like, it's not the first time she's seen her dead husband. She's not at all afraid. And he's like, follow me in the middle of the night and she's like, whatever, sure, right? Like, she's not at all like, and I felt like that was maybe like culturally seeing dead people was not a problem, right? I don't know. So the Jodie Foster character is a total jerk, huh?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They're going out of their way to make her really unlikable, although Evangeline is unlikable also, right? Less so, but she also is a little hard charging in a way that puts people off, right? I mean, she's just passionate and trying to get to the bottom of it, whereas Jodie Foster's like really a jerk.
Jodie Foster's like, she's a jerk, but it's like she has a hard time at it seems so far. I mean, I've only seen one episode. It seems like she has a hard time admitting to stuff, so she's very sarcastic about things.
Yeah.
She won't come out and say, Navarro, you were right.
Right.
She says things in a roundabout way.
Yeah.
And then and she's a complete jerk to the kid deputy there. Especially, like, she makes him go to his dad's house and steal the file, but it kind of seems like he stole the shit in the first place. So,
well, and like, you're his boss and the chief of police. Like, can't you just go over there and be like, "Give it to me. I demand that you return the police files to the police station." Like, I don't like that guy. Obviously, hates her. Also, I don't know if she got his job or what. And a little more might come out in episode 2 about him, not about. I still don't. I watched 2 episodes. I don't know why he hates her. But he really, obviously, he's always saying stuff about her, like how she can't get anything done and she's a terrible, like, he's very undermining of her at all times. I think maybe he doesn't like working for a woman. Like, that
could be it.
Like, this is not a police force, maybe, that historically has a lot of women on it. Right? Or, I don't know. I think he doesn't like working for a woman. Is my thought there. But they're going out of their way to make Jodie Foster really unlikable, which makes me think maybe makes me think of like the woman in The Killing, who, I forget her name, but the one that Mirella Enos played, the cop. She was very unlikable also, but then she became more and more, you learned more about her, like trying to be a single mom. And,
yeah, but by that time we didn't care because the show was awful.
Right, yeah. 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 This show, so it's a little early. We'll talk about 2 and 3 next week, because 2 gets a little more into. I mean, it doesn't really answer anything. It gets maybe a little more into the people in the town. I think it's short. There's only like 8 episodes. This is also a short season, right?
8, yeah.
Yeah. So they might have to move through this mystery kind of quickly. Also,
already, that's okay though, because I gotta say I enjoy a lot of these limited series, shows, because we were talking. What the heck were we talking about the other day, Artie and I? We were talking about something being a mini, a series instead of a movie, because a lot of stuff, I mean, this is all original programming, so it's a little different, but like adaptations of books, a lot of times you do a movie, and most people don't like movie versions of books because they cut 90% out.
Yeah.
And then, they throw a little of their own in. They say, okay, we're going to change this and do that. But now that we've got all these streaming channels doing all these shows and everything, adaptations of books and comics and whatnot, where you can flesh out the characters, you can stretch it out, you can actually include everything from the novels into, So, I mean, I'm totally a fan of these, 6, 8, sometimes 6, depending on what it is, a little short, I think, but, 8, 10, 13 episodes of a show to get the whole thing, Sometimes a movie works, we specifically were talking about Stephen King and how the differences between, like, Stanley Kubrick Shining is a masterpiece, but not as an adaptation.
Yeah,
the TV miniseries with Steven Weber of The Shining was, while not as good, was much more book worthy,
like truer to the book,
because you get more, you get more time,
yeah,
you get 2 hours versus 8 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. Or something like The Stand could not ever really be an adequate movie, right?
Well, no, I mean they've done The Stand twice, but both times it was a miniseries on TV.
Yeah, right.
So.
That can't be a movie. That's too many pages, I guess.
No, that can't be a movie.
I mean, look, a lot of people say, like, you know, if the Harry Potter books really come to Netflix as a series, there is an opportunity there for a lot of people who read the books were upset that a lot of stuff got cut, right? And like doing that as a series allows you to bring in a lot of subplots and characterizations.
Perfect example, actually. It's funny. I know we were talking about Percy Jackson. That's what started the conversation the other day.
Yeah,
we were talking Percy Jackson as a show versus as a movie, and it's going to benefit from being a show because, I mean, we've watched, I've watched 2 episodes and they're 45 minutes apiece. That's an hour and a half. I think the movie was an hour and 45 minutes. So you know what I mean? And they're still in the camp.
Yeah.
In the movie, they're fighting Zeus.
Right. Yeah. 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 Well, I mean, I'm encouraged. I think this was a good first hour, right? I think the characters were really all the characters. I mean, granted, there's not that many of them, which is helpful, right? Like you're in this little town and there's only so many characters they can introduce, and it gives everybody had enough time.
I gotta say, I'm actually curious to know the dynamic between Jodie Foster and her ex's daughter. I mean, it's not her daughter because she calls her Liz, and I get the feeling that her and her dad weren't married, so it's not her stepdaughter. I think they were dating. Something. I'm guessing the dad died, and she said, "I'm still going to take care of you." And
I mean, she says that to her in the car, like, "You don't have to be my mom."
Right.
I'm sure he would understand, right? Like, I guess he died and she's still raising her, and she's not very good at it, right? Like she yells at her and then when the kid says, "Let's talk about it," she's like, "No, we're not talking about it."
That scene was pretty. Actually, I enjoyed that scene, but I definitely want to hear more about that whole thing.
Right.
In that.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm interested in what.
Yeah. And then the drunk with the car accident.
Oh yeah.
She's like, "Sally, you don't even have a license."
Yeah. I mean, they did a good job of showing like kind of how shitty the job is being the police chief in this town, where like most of your crime is drunk driving, spousal abuse, petty theft, bar fights. Like that's the kind of right. And now you've got this like ultimate mystery that you're not equipped in any way like to solve, right? She doesn't have a forensics department, she doesn't have the equipment, she's gonna have to go by it's gonna be great to see someone who has to go by like old timey good old detective work to figure it out, right? But I'd like to see what went wrong with her and Navarro. They hate each other, right? Like Navarro,
we know what happened with them. We find that out in the first episode because
they didn't solve the case.
Because Liz shut down the case and Navarro was like, "Let me take it on my own," and she kind of went, and Liz said no, and she kind of kept investigating anyway.
But I feel like there's got to be more there that it can't.
I'm sure there is,
right?
But that's definitely. I mean, that's a pretty good chunk.
I mean, Navarro's very like, "Oh, you're white, and you didn't want to investigate it because she's native, and if she was white, you would have kept it open." And I mean, I don't think that's who Danvers is. I do think there's an element of Danvers. Like she says in either episode 1 or 2, it might be in 2, it might be in 1. She says, "Look, that case was never going to be solved. So I shut it down. We were never going to solve it." And she's right. They were never going to solve it until they found her tongue in the ice station 8 years later. Right.
Well, technically, we don't know it's her tongue yet.
No, we don't. But
I'm sure it is. But
yeah. And I'd like to. So I'm also looking forward to find out what those guys were doing. Like, I feel like they were doing something like X-Files-y. Like, you remember the one on the X-Files when Mulder and Scully go to like an ice station where everybody's like dead or whatever. And it kind of turns out that there was a bacteria. They unearthed like an ancient bacteria in the ice core that like infected them all, made them go crazy and like kill each other or whatever. And like they were probably up to some shady shit in that ICE research center, right?
You know what it made me think of? Made me think of Helix.
Yes, yeah, they were some shady shit in Helix, weren't they? Yeah, it is very Helix-like. I forgot about that show. So yeah, I have this show is getting a lot of like critics who've seen the whole thing are saying that it's the best one since season 1, which is probably easy to say because 2 and 3 were not. 2 especially I didn't enjoy. 3 was better, but I'm excited to see where it goes and to see Jodie Foster on television. I mean, I think this is Jodie Foster's first TV show since maybe The Bad News Bears. Oh, that was a movie. She wasn't on the TV show, right? She was not on the TV show. She was only in the movie. It was a TV show. She wasn't in it, I don't think. No. Maybe she's never done TV, episodic TV.
I don't know.
So having her on my TV is always great. So, all right, we'll keep up with this next week. We'll do episodes 2 and 3 and have ourselves caught up.
Sounds like a plan.
All righty. Great. Well, that wraps us up for today, I guess.
Yep. That kills us for tonight.
All right.
Do it again next week, and maybe we'll have something to talk about.
We will. We'll watch some good stuff and give everybody some good recommendations.
That sounds good.
All right. Well, in the meantime, have a good week, AJ and everybody else out there.
You too, Karen, and everybody else in podcast. Well, is this still a podcast since we're streaming now?
So, our streaming show. I think it's not a podcast anymore.
I still refer to it as a podcast, so.
Sure.
Whatever.
Why not?
And maybe eventually you get to see what we all, everybody will get to see us on a regular basis. But, it's funny. We were making fun of Jamie, but it's like at this time of night, it's like,
Yeah, well, we'll get better at this. We'll get better at this and get more comfortable maybe with our cameras.
Yeah.
So, all right.
All right.
Well, thanks,
everybody. Have a great week, everybody. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for Roger for hosting as always. And good night.
Good night.